What have you got for us tonight?
Thanks very much, Laura. This is Africa News. And Congolese troops, backed by UN forces, chase M23 fighters from their mountain stronghold of Bunagana. Also, for the first time since 2002, Tunisian authorities face suicide bombings. One attack is foiled, but another bomber detonates on a deserted beach. And diplomatic tensions between Luanda and Lisbon could cost Portugal dearly after Angola rejects accusations of corruption. Our correspondents say some Portuguese living in Angola think Lisbon should back off. First up, though, it's another victory for the Congolese army. Troops on Wednesday captured Bunagana, the main base for the M23 rebels they've been battling in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. And the latest outbreak of fighting broke out last Friday, but backed by the UN peacekeeping mission MONUSCO, the Congolese military appears to have succeeded in its major offensive against the insurgents. Meanwhile, representatives from both the Congolese government and the M23 are trying to revive stalled peace talks that are aimed at ending the 20-month insurgency. Well, for more on this, we're joined by Martin Kobler, the head of MONUSCO, and he's going to be speaking to us a bit about where things stand. Thanks very much, Martin, for speaking to us. Now, yesterday, you declared that this latest offensive had delivered the military end of the M23. They, on the other hand, are saying they're carrying out a tactical retreat. Are you confident that the threat's gone?
Well, I think the military success must be followed by a political success. I'm convinced that the military victory alone will not succeed to bring a political solution about. One has to go back to the negotiation table now, because it's very important that the M23 ex-combatants then will be integrated into civil or military life here in the Eastern DRC and in Congo.
So are you confident in Kinshasa's commitment to these peace talks? Because it looks like the M23 are very much on the back foot. Why should Kinshasa be speaking to them?
Well, the negotiation teams never left Kampala. This has been going on for 10 months now, since December last, with a Ugandan facilitation. And I myself was 3 or 4 times in Kampala in order to talk to the negotiation teams. There was the initialing of a partial agreement a week ago, where all the 5 envoys on the Great Lakes, Mary Robinson, the Special Envoy of Secretary General, myself, the American, the AU, and the EU Special Representative who are present. But time was too short, and there was only a partial agreement signed, and the fightings broke out, and I'm very confident everybody goes now back to the negotiation table. As I said, the military success has to be followed by political success. There is no military solution alone.
Staying with the military efforts, though, Congolese troops have consistently lost ground against the M23. Suddenly it's all turned around. Do you think that's down to this new UN intervention brigade?
Well, it's not only the intervention brigade, it's the MONUSCO after a new mandate. We have the mandate with the intervention brigade to protect civilians in an offensive way. The mandate of us is to have to be allowed to have offensive operations to combat and to neutralize armed groups, and that's what we were doing. The first case was in August, when the city of Goma was attacked by the M23. This was a city of 1 million inhabitants, and we fought with all we had at that time against this attack on the civilian population. And we engaged in fightings now, and we lost already in these battles 3 Tanzanian soldiers who bravely fought in this war. And one was killed during the fight last Saturday in Kiwanja Rujuru area against the M23. Yes, it is also because we have now a new mandate to offensively combat armed groups here in Eastern DRC.
Mr. Kobler, thank you very much for speaking to us. Okay, a look at some other news. They are the first suicide bombing bids that Tunisia has recorded in a decade. Security around hotels in Tunis has been stepped up after a suspected Islamic extremist blew himself up in a hotel in the coastal resort of Sousse on Wednesday. Just half an hour later, another man was arrested in a nearby town as he was believed to be preparing to bomb the tomb of independence leader Habib Bourguiba. No one was killed in the successful explosion as the bomber was chased from the Riyadh Palms Hotel and detonated on a deserted beach. Well, for more, we're joined by France 24's Misha Benoit-Lavelle. Misha, now these are the first suicide bombings in Tunisia since 2002. Why are these extreme attacks suddenly back?
Well, the attacks today aren't totally unprecedented in recent time. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen a series of attacks that have cost the lives of 9 National Guard officers across the country. And investigations following those attacks found quantities of explosives hidden in suspects' houses. Another potential link to those previous attacks on security forces would be ideology. Authorities have indicated that today's would-be assailants belong to what they call a takfirist Salafist movement, meaning a radical fringe of conservative Islamism. And the attacks on the National Guard officers were also blamed on religious extremists. No specific group has been named by authorities yet. But if the attacks are indeed related, those today and the attacks on security officers over the last 2 weeks, it would be the largest coordinated series of attacks that Tunisia has seen.
Thanks very much. France 24's Misha Benoit-Lavelle there for us in Tunis. In Egypt, security forces fired tear gas at crowds of protesters who gathered to denounce the earlier arrest of another Muslim Brotherhood leader. Essam El Arian was taken into custody following a raid on an apartment in New Cairo where he was hiding. He'll now be detained for 30 days, accused of inciting murder and unrest.
Essam El Arian, a deputy leader of the Freedom and Justice Party, the political wing of the Muslim Brotherhood, was arrested early on Wednesday. Almost all of the Brotherhood's top figures and 2,000 of its members are now behind bars. El Arian's detention quickly sparked a protest from students and supporters of the Islamist movement and ousted President Mohamed Morsi outside of Cairo's Al-Azhar University. Several people were arrested, and demonstrators accused police of heavy-handedness.
It is illogical that after 3 years of revolt, they want to stop protests. The regime came to power thanks to protests.
Mohamed Morsi will face trial on the 4th of November, charged with inciting the murder of protesters last year. His backers say he and other members of the Brotherhood are victims of a political vendetta. On Tuesday, 3 judges presiding over the Muslim Brotherhood guide, Mohamed Badia, stepped aside over authorities' refusal to allow defendants in court.
The judges halted the proceedings today because they feel ill at ease, and this is their right. What we know is that there were attempts to have the trial held where the defendants are being detained, but the judges refused and demanded that the defendants be tried in a court instead. So I believe this could be one of the reasons the court decided to step down.
Amidst tension between secular and Islamist forces, the Egyptian authorities have declared a state of emergency and imposed a curfew. Wary of further unrest, the army remains out in force in Cairo's streets.
Now, after spending decades forging close relations, the temperature between Angola and former colonial power Portugal has recently taken on a distinct chill. Earlier this month, Luanda broke off plans for a strategic partnership, accusing Portugal of labelling Angolans as corrupt. It's a move that Portugal can ill afford. Our correspondent sent us this report.
In the streets of Angola's capital, people speak of little else but the diplomatic row between Lisbon and Luanda. In a speech to Parliament, the president did not hesitate to settle the score with the country's former colonial power.
With Portugal, unfortunately, things are not going well. There have been misunderstandings at the highest level of the state. And the current political climate does not encourage the implementation of the previously announced strategic partnerships.
Everybody from the deputy president to the attorney general have been on edge. Portuguese authorities are looking into the accounts of some of Angola's richest people to see where their money comes from. Even the presidential family has not escaped the Portuguese prosecutors' investigations into real estate transactions. These questions are upsetting those in power, but most Angolans think they should be answered.
There are people in this country who became very, very wealthy in a very short time, and not all of it was thanks to hard work. As a historian, I have said it and I will say it again, I don't know of any fortune that was made in a transparent manner.
But the Portuguese community in Luanda find Lisbon's actions in very poor taste. If the head of a company has moved here, it's because there's more money to be made in Africa than in Europe.
When I look at the statistics they give on television, what do I see? Which country has invested most in Portugal? Angola. Which nationality has spent the most money on luxury goods and other things? It's the Angolans. So I don't think we can afford to go and ask people where they got the money that buys them lunch and all the rest in Lisbon.
There are more than 200,000 Portuguese who have settled in Angola. They are the first to benefit from the spectacular reconstruction of the former colony, and they know it's not in their interest to upset the people.
That wraps up African news for me, but I will be back with more in an hour, Laura.
Thank you, Georgia. We look forward to that. And do stay tuned to France 24. Annette Young here with your latest international headlines right after this short break. Don't go away.